Welcome to Tales from the Drive-In. Grab some popcorn and tune in as we discuss the wondrous curiosities of the world on and off the screen. I'm your host, BJ, filmmaker, paranormal enthusiast, and horror fanatic. Joining me today is Daniel Crosier, a talented mixed media artist who has a passion for horror and is a key member of the Colorado Festival of Horror, Slasher Hotel, coming to Denver September 15th through the 17th. But don't worry, the hotel isn't haunted, I think. Welcome to Tales from the Drive-In. How's it going?
Good. How are you, BJ?
I'm doing great. And do you go by Daniel or Dan?
Daniel's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so crazy. So you and I met at Distortions in Greeley,
Mhm.
and it's crazy that like I'm from Greeley and
Oh,
um
great.
yeah, so I lived there, in the early to late 90s and
Yeah.
on. So and I had known about distortions, but I hadn't really been there. And it's crazy that they've been, going strong for so long now.
hmm Yeah.
And
40 some odd years.
that's crazy. Yeah, right. And I'm like, and I asked them too when we were there. It's like, where do you guys get the energy for this? Like, how is that even? Because it doesn't look like I mean, they don't have like a big crew, right? It's not like, I don't
Yeah.
know. Not,
It's kind of an intimate family situation.
yeah, that's what's cool about it though. But yeah, like, so yourself, you're from Kersey, is that right? Originally?
Yep. The podunk town of Kersey, Colorado, 9 miles east of Greeley.
Right. Like it's funny when people say it's like, oh, when I say I'm from Greeley, though, they hardly know what that is. But then you say Kersey, it's like I don't even know what that is either. So it's kind of crazy.
Oh, just wait till like people say, "Oh, I'm from Gill." It's like, "Whoa, geez, what is that?" Oh, it's basically a box,
Right.
and a stick, yeah, and a zip code. That's basically what Gill is.
Yeah,
But
no movie theater, nothing like that. Like maybe a store, like a gas
Mhm.
station.
If that, I mean, if yeah, I mean, they're becoming a metropolitan. If city, if they become if they get a gas station in there.
Yeah.
My mom grew up around that area of Colorado, and that's just like 10 miles away from Kersey.
Yeah. That's cool though. Like, I remember because we were talking at
hmm
Distortions, you were saying that you'd known about them and you'd been with them, off and on here and there for a while, right? And I noticed the latex behind you, and yeah, that's like the perfect use for a backdrop, right? It's like the creative things you can think up, right? You just throw some lights with it,
hmm
and then the red, and it's all bloody, and it looks awesome. I gotta.
It, yeah, it's bloody and gory, or it's festive. It's Christmassy, it, yeah, it's very abstract, and I really focus on the faux finish of my backdrops. But yeah, yeah. As far as like distortions, and you were there when we did the tour, and I did a brief little talk about my personal relationship with them. But for your viewers and your audience, um, essentially, I grew up around distortions, kind of adjacently. At first, they were like a block or two away from me, and I was like 5 or 6, and I was that little kid that would, go, rifling through Ed Edmonds, the owner of Distortions at the time, his trash and pull out some of the latex rejects, and that was pretty fun and exciting. I didn't know what I was, getting. I was just kind of scoring, and at I think, you know, it wasn't very long before Ed was on to me, and he spooked me, and I never came back. He's like, "You dark kids, get out of my trash!" It's like, oh, geez. But yeah, they closed down that shop and then opened up larger shops, and they would move around throughout Greeley. And as you talked to Ed, and that, Ed talked about, Greeley was a great central location to do distribution, because it's, partway through the Midwest, and you had, direct access to East Coast and West Coast for their business lines. But they had a number of different shops and locations throughout Greeley, and I think during high school I would apply there every summer, and every summer I would never get a call.
Oh no.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, I mean that's all right. Because in the mid 2000s, probably a little earlier than that, I had a performance group called OFM, where we would get dressed up in big latex monster outfits. They're all like feudal Japanese demon themes. And, they're hooked up to like fake blood and blood cannons and stuff. And we'd
That's
had
awesome.
choreographed fights. So it's kind of like a B movie Circus Soleil meets Guar, type thing. And I needed to get big amounts of liquid latex on the cheap. And so I
Mm,
reached out to Janine over at Distortions, and they were very accommodating. I'd get like a 5 gallon bucket for like less than $150.
nice.
Um, at the time, you go to the art supply stores. It was before Amazon was really a big thing, and you're paying like $20 for a pint of liquid latex.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's not very economical. So through that, me being a vendor, purchasing just raw materials through them wholesale. I struck up a friendship with Ed and Marcia. I did their comic book about 10 years ago.
Nice.
Um, they did a mask of my buddy, the Enigma, the sideshow performer. Did that for their TV show, Making Monsters, which was on Travel Channel. So I got to be on an episode of that. So I couldn't, Ed and Marcia are just incredibly, giving and supportive couple. Yeah, that whole shop is amazing. Some amazing talent and personalities there.
Mm.
Janine just lights up the place. She's always in a good mood, even when she's in a bad mood. I can't tell.
You can't upset her.
Yeah, you really can't, even on a bad day. When she's stressed out, she's
That's
just the little light bulb, that just kind of flares up, and
that's
you
so
get
cool, man.
happy because it's a cool place.
Yeah, that's I like your cup.
Oh
um,
yeah, just some
and
shameless marketing.
yeah,
Hey,
we will get to that absolutely. Because there's a lot I have to ask about the festival coming up.
good,
Um,
good. There's a lot of things I need to make up about. I mean, share with you. No, I'm kidding.
but first, like, again, yeah, I'm super proud that Greeley has distortions in it, and
Yeah.
there's that history, there's the Monster Days, there's the there's
Oh,
there's a lot of cool stuff that's um horror related that's just right down the road, right? Like
yep,
that's what's cool. It's something, and it's outside of Denver, right? Like you think all the cool stuff's in Denver. No, not
yep,
always. Not in this situation. And
right.
artists like yourself, you're obviously come from a small town and all of that, and now you're doing all these crazy things with horror and everything, like your artwork, like that was that's some impressive stuff, man. I really
Oh,
like it. Like, yeah, it's
thank you.
cool. It's because it's a combination of things. You're a creative. That, I guess that's the best way I could describe you, right? Because you're not
Right.
necessarily just a artist, like a canvas artist or anything like that. You're not a sculpturist. You do that. You do a little bit of everything, right? And film too, right? Aren't you part of
Yeah,
that?
yeah. I guess I'm kind of a generalist. I'm not a master of anything. I dabble in a lot of different things. I do play around with film. You know, I work with animators right now. Right, and I work with currently working on a film project with my girlfriend Elisa, um, and working with a lot of people building animatronics for that project.
That's
Yeah,
cool. So it's
doing a
a
bunch of
is it a live
comics.
a live action thing or what?
Live action. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Live action, practical effects.
nice. Which are the
So
best?
yeah, we'll be able to chat about that here in the next upcoming months or so,
Oh, cool.
when we announce that project. And then, yeah, do a lot of illustration, a lot of murals. Yeah, definitely want to do more murals. I think, I think that's the painting art form that has more impact. You can see it driving down the road. You don't have to go to a gallery. Nothing like
Right.
that. You don't have to hop on Instagram. It's
Like
the nice
you
thing.
mean like on buildings?
What's up?
Would you do that on a building then? Is that what you're talking about?
Oh yes, I'm sorry. Yes, on the exterior of buildings, on the interiors too. Just depends on what the project is. But that's one of those things that art really builds on equity and really enriches neighborhoods. That way when you're doing like public art and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And it's pretty enlightening. It's that's one of the fields that I think is really a lot more fulfilling for me. And the first time I did a mural, um, I was kind of dared, kind of challenged by my buddy Jim Norris and his partner, my friend Matt Megacy, and they co-own together Mutiny Cafe on South Broadway. And like back in 2016, he's like, you do all this like ridiculous line work, and it's really like really tight, fine tuned, just kind of schizophrenic is might be a good word for it. Zentangles is what I'm commonly, um, my art gets referred to, or kind of, um, I guess,
Described
pigeonholed
as,
or something
yeah.
like that as. Um, but he's like, yeah, I think you can do this on a wall. And God, it was the most intimidating feeling, but it was also very rewarding because we had all walks of life come down that alleyway. It was in the back alley of Mutiny, and it's a rough neighborhood.
Right.
Um, but any neighborhood can be a rough neighborhood. It just depends on how you interact with everybody. But we had tweakers coming down and homeless people, and they were really strange. They were very appreciative because had one homeless lady come up and she's like, this kind of lightens the feeling at night, because it's very bright colors and kind of
Mhm.
whimsical. Because the subject was I was painting a Sphinx cat eating a grasshopper.
Oh,
It's kind of weird, and my heavy-handed line style, and yeah, they're like, yeah, it's very, it's kind of uplifting, which
that's
is
cool.
interesting to hear from somebody who lives on the street. And God, I mean, that person has seen, some things that I
Right.
can't comprehend, and things have happened to her that I hope to never, you know,
Abs-
know, and hope nobody else ever has to know. Um, but yeah, that was something that kind of rocked me. I was like, oh man. So doing
That's
stuff
super
like that
cool.
is nice. I feel it's important, and um,
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. Yeah.
That I love that because I mean sometimes with film, like obviously that's what when I went to Fan Expo
Mhm.
recently, a lot of the people that all the actors and stuff, they were talking about, they all said the same thing. They're like, it's good to see our fans because you don't get to see them because when you shoot a film, there's no audience. Like,
Right.
you don't get that instant reaction of like, how did we do? Like, did people really like it, or is it
Right.
because it's up in? I mean, you could look at numbers, but you have to actually see the people to understand and feel their passion and all of that. And like
Yeah.
with your art, that's super cool. That's something that, yeah, I mean, as an artist, you want people to see it. You want people to obviously buy it, but you want people to really experience it. And just like you said, like they don't have
Mhm.
to go into a gallery. It's just, driving down the street or
Yeah.
wherever, just taking a walk, and you're like, damn, that's crazy. Like, who did that? And and where can I see more of it, that kind of thing. And I think Denver's starting to get that, or they've been doing that for a while, right? There's a lot more artwork on murals on buildings and stuff. Like Rhino, right, is all of
Oh
that.
yeah. The art scene here is crazy. It's for the last 20, 25 years, it has coalesced in this amazing machine. So, when we get like outside entities like Meow Wolf, they have a huge presence here, and
Hmm.
that's great. They brought a lot of commerce with them and stuff. But when I was originally, nothing to the about the to the crew that's there now. But when they came to town, they're like, "Hey, we're going to show you how to art." It was just like, "What are you doing? You come from New Mexico, and yeah, most of the art that's associated there is turquoise stuff,
Right.
and yeah, and granted, Santa Fe is one of the art meccas in the U.S., but in terms of like sheer population of artists, it's like, sorry, Denver's got it. When
Yeah.
we've been doing the same thing they've been doing, they just they were just in a fortunate spot, able to get backing and get get the state and George R. R. Martin to really give them the push that they needed, and great. But it was just funny, that initial arrogance when they came to town. It's like, what are you talking about? We've been doing the same thing. We've been
Yeah.
doing it more. Yeah, and we've got a lot more stuff going on, and a lot more diversity.
Yeah.
Going on. Yeah, the artists in Colorado is just astounding. The art community is amazing, continues to grow and thrive. I think this was true, like of the during COVID, was that the art industry itself just boomed, because everybody now had tremendous amount of time at home making pieces, selling them in galleries, selling them on their eBay.
Oh yeah.
You know, yeah, a lot of people were setting up OnlyFans, for to show off their ooh la la stuff, and hey,
Yeah.
you got to make a living. But at the same time, there were artists on there, showing work in progress, process stuff. Twitch
Oh yeah.
became a huge handle for that too. Yeah, it's really interesting to see how artists have expanded, and also diversified, not only in their talents but how they market themselves, how they sell themselves. So
Yeah.
many of them have, and I wish I was one to include me. I'm still kind of a dunderhead when it comes to like this type of technology, which is funny because I also have a video podcast show too that I broadcast live. I do it live because I'm lazy. I can't handle editing. But it's really admirable to see all these artists going out doing these things, and they're enriching the world.
Oh yeah.
It's amazing to see all this talent, and how it gets that creative dialogue going and
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
The music scene is like that here in town too. I feel that they're all very supportive. The film scene's still a little fragmented, but I think it's starting to button up pretty good, where they're different crews are supporting each other and stuff. The everybody keeps talking about, well, we need that Hollywood money. Have you seen Hollywood right now? Good lord.
Yeah.
They're pretty much, like the studio system's pretty much, regurgitating their own vomit. That's all they can do. I
It's
think really we just, just like the bands, just like the artists, make your own damn movie,
yeah.
and make your own TV, put it out there. Something's gonna hit, and then the rest of the world will focus on this little area we call Colorado.
And that was one thing that I was going to ask you about
Mm-hmm.
in terms of your own like art, as far as, motivation goes. Where do you get motivation for all the things that you do? And is it all, cuz I know obviously horror,
Mm-hmm.
the horror genre specifically is really big for you. Big for me too.
Yeah.
Um is there something like music or films,
Mm.
horror related, that really like motivates whatever you do?
Right. So like my motivation is, my only vice, coffee. It's this black swill that I drink.
There you
Mm.
go.
But it's also working with just amazing talent. So, you get to working with some phenomenal people that have skill sets that you don't have, and you work things out and you come up with these amazing creative collaborations, and it feels so empowering and endearing, and I think that's that's absolutely wonderful. But hopefully somebody else is getting something out of it. So really, it's kind of human connection. I think it really
Yeah.
is. It's that sort of feedback. Um, that you've connected with somebody. Whether you know it or not. Somehow it just comes back to you. Every now and then I'll get like little direct messages on my Instagram from people I don't know. It's like, hey, I'm in this bar. I think you did this mural. What's it about? It's as blasé as that. I was like, well, I don't know. What do you think it's about? And they're like, well, I think this is a hog. Oh, very, very astute. But I designed it to be a werewolf, drinking some whiskey. Oh, well, it's cool, you know. Yeah, thanks. I mean, it's mundane, but somebody decided to take the time to reach out to you, and
Right.
maybe it's a compliment, or maybe they're being a jerk. I don't know. That's the beauty of texting and stuff. The inflections aren't necessarily there unless you hear it.
Hmm.
Of course, like I said, I'm not that bright, so you could probably be being a sarcastic jerk all you want to me, and I won't pick up on it in
No,
person.
you'll be like, thanks, man. Thank you for sharing. Like,
Yeah, I'll be just what?
I mean, you're getting noticed, right? So either way, you're still it's either if it's good or bad, it's somebody
Yeah,
saying something.
yeah, it's still some kind of connection. I have a feature film out called Isolation Man. It's a mockumentary about a superhero character of mine. I had it on Amazon Prime for a while. And, the reviews on it were very short and horrifying. But I was like,
Oh no.
people are watching it. Sweet, And now it's over on Troma now. I think more appropriate platform for it. With the Toxic Avenger and Lloyd Kaufman's work and James Gunn's stuff, and I was like, oh, it finally found a home. That was appropriate for it. And I don't know what the reviews are like over there, but
Right. It's
but
in the right spot for what it is and what
yeah,
the kind of movies that reference. I don't know if they reference it because I haven't seen it, but it sounds like it's the same. It's similar tones, maybe comedy.
yeah, it's a mockumentary. It's very B movie ish, and it's very kind of juvenile humor and everything. It's kind of found footage. Basically we shot the whole feature for like $400, and all the
Nice.
money went to breakfasts.
Yeah.
So it's just a fun project to do with a bunch of friends, and we did it. We put it out there. We had a couple screenings when it back in 2016 at Alamo Drafthouse, and it was
Nice.
great. Sold out those, and people loved it, and people collected the comic book that it was based off of too, called the Exquisite Vanishteer. So
That's awesome. And I guess it's about this guy who disappears people, right? Is that what it is?
yeah, so it's yeah. To put it politely, he's just an asshole piece of shit of a human being, and hopefully I can swear on
Oh
this,
yes,
but
please.
okay.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. But yeah, he's super powered. He has this amazing ability to make things vanish, never to reappear. And he has a bad day, and makes while he's in court, um, he accidentally makes the human population of the Western Hemisphere vanish, and so the Eastern Hemisphere later on is like, hey, what's going on? so they start sending crews and mostly like journalists and stuff, investigative journalists, you know, to come over and investigate what happened, and they come across this sad sack, superhero, so-called superhero,
Right.
that really, caused, one of the worst human atrocities ever, just washing his underwear in the river because he's used to people helping him out and taking care of him, and because he's a celebrity and he's a superhero and he's arrogant as hell, and so yeah, instead now he's just pathetic, and the whole documentary is really kind of getting to the root of him. Who is he? And he's nobody. He's just a facade. He's just narcissism encapsulated.
They
And
probably made a couple mistakes along the way, and the big mistake is
oh
making all the people go away.
yeah, the remaining UN, they're like, we gotta neutralize this guy. He's more dangerous than clusters of nukes. If he has a bad day, we're all gone. So that's the film. That's Isolation Man, and the comic book, The Exquisite Vanishteer, sets it up. So that was a fun project that we shot over 10 years ago, and um, it only recently found its way to Trauma Now. So for your viewers out there, go to Trauma Now. Not now, but later.
No, that's awesome. So um talking a little bit about, like, so you grew up in the 80s and 90s, right?
Yeah, 70s, 80s, and
70s,
90s.
80s,
I
70s,
think
80s,
I've got a few years on you.
just a couple, just a few maybe. Because yeah, when I I think you're more of kind of like my older brother. I have an older brother. He's like 7 years older than me, and um, obviously being a younger brother, I would always idolize him and what he likes, and so a lot of it was 80s horror and then all of that, and then it moved on and all of that kind of stuff. And for me, that's where it all started, right, with being
Right.
a creative, because when the first time I saw, like, Hellraiser and and Freddy and all that kind of stuff, like there was, it was almost like a light bulb going off. It's like, man, there's limitless possibilities for
Mhm.
creative thinking, not just that genre, but all genres. But that was the
Right.
first one that really was like fun and exciting and also scary. But
Mm-hmm.
and was that similar for you? Like, was there any particular, you mentioned a few directors, but was there any other like specific films that were just like as a
Oh,
kid or?
yeah. So as far as like something like inspirations and stuff like that, or what I grew up on, um, I remember my dad introducing me to Toxic Avenger. It was on like USA Up All Night or something, and we were watching that, and he would take me. Yeah, I blame my dad for me getting hooked on so much pop culture, and yeah, he would take me to. I remember Empire Strikes Back. Screaming in ET. Where Elliot and ET meet in the cornfield and then run in opposite directions. I remember screaming at Raiders of the Lost Ark, and where Indy falls into the pit with the snakes.
Mm.
The tomb.
Oh yeah.
Um, and so yeah, so there's those things, and then yeah, I think on my own, I was finding like the Terminator and Aliens, a lot of James Cameron stuff.
Oh yeah.
My parents introduced me to Gremlins and Ghostbusters. So some of the softer things, right, in horror, and they always forbid me to watch the hard R stuff, which was the
I
Nightmare on
mean,
Elm Street, the Friday the 13th. I remember in art school, I connected with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original one, and to this day, and if you watch my Live on a Dead show, all my viewers are sick to death of hearing this, but Texas Chainsaw is my favorite horror movie of all time, hands down. And the reason is it's not because I get immediate pleasure from it. It's because it gives me nightmares.
I
It
mean,
every time I watch it, I have nightmares on it. It's so visceral and unrelenting, and the craft in it is just phenomenal what they were able to do with that. You know, and through that, I found like, you know, Wes Craven's Last House on the Left, which I can't watch that ever again. It's just so unsettling. I can't even rewatch it.
So is it more the reality stuff, the stuff that could be real that kind of,
The worst monsters in the world are the real ones, and it's usually us, right?
yeah.
So it's, you know, the sci-fi monsters, like, you know, the creature or something like that. I can rewatch those and enjoy them and think of them of, you know, there are superheroes. You know, they're these fantastic creatures, and you know, so many of them are you know, misunderstood, or you know, very very vicious. I mean, it's a whole dichotomy. Um, but yeah, but you know, um, those um, those monsters are also kind of analogies for so many of society's ills. You know, whether it's like xenophobia or you know you know, racism or bigotry or
Consumerism, any of that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So there, yeah, some of those monsters are stand-ins for those analogies. But yeah, it's the real world stuff that I just have a hard time really getting into. Like I said, Texas Chainsaw is absolutely amazing. I think it's, you know, top notch, you know, craftsmanship. You know, I've seen like I Spit on Your Grave. I will not rewatch that. I absolutely, you know, love the actress in there, that she gets, you know, her revenge, but the stuff that she goes through and the camera is just so you know, unflinching and unrelenting. It's like, oh man,
You
it's
know, you did
pressure.
mention the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and that was one thing. Linnea, I think is it Linnea or Linnea? Yeah, Linnea Quigley.
Oh
She
sure,
so she's from she's obviously a famous actress. She from the 80s from
yeah,
um
Return of the Living Dead.
yeah. So
Yeah,
I actually met her not too long ago at one of the horror cons here in Denver, and
yeah, probably like Rocky Mountain Nightmares or something.
Rocky Mountain Nightmares. Yep.
Yeah.
So I got to talk to her, and that was her favorite movie. She
Oh, I
said,
Spit on Your Grave.
"No, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre."
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah,
Yeah, because they went around and asked her, it's like, "Oh, what are your favorite scary movies?" And she's like, "Yeah, that one for sure."
yeah, yeah, yeah. As a kid, you know, like the one that really stuck with me, like, you know, I grew up in the age of like the Goonies. The Goonies were new when
Oh
I
yeah.
was a kid, and I went to the theater and saw it, loved it. It's a great movie. But my Goonies was Monster Squad.
Oh,
And,
okay. There you go.
yeah, that's still one that I watch quite a bit. You know, some of the stuff didn't age very well, but like, you know, the overall story and the kids and the monsters especially, just amazing. And you know, I watch it now for like the editing and the pacing, but um, you know, it's still, you know, such a wonderful escape. Um, yeah,
Oh yeah.
some of the dialogue that the kids say, you know, you dropping the F word and stuff in derogatory sense. It's like, oh man, yeah,
Yeah, you're like, it
yeah,
was the 80s, it was a little bit of a different time, you know, we're talking Mel Brooks and all the
yeah.
craziness,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah,
it was fine, like, back then,
yeah.
it's
Well,
whatever.
and Bill and Ted were the same thing. You know,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like, oh no, because you know, I go back and I rewatch these, and it's like, oh yeah, some things don't age too well, and you know, some of my friends don't like them because of that, and I totally get it. I totally
Yeah.
understand. They are you know, kind of flawed masterpieces in that sense, and you know,
And it
but
changes. Yeah, it changes over time as far as, your love for them as a kid and then as an
sure,
adult because like you said things don't age well and sometimes like for me some movies I'll watch once and then I'll wait like 10 or something years depending on what it
right,
is and yeah I mean some horror movies I would say have aged poorly one like you said I love the movies that you know where there's kids the kids that
yeah,
or you know that are friends and they're doing stuff together like for me Stand By Me is
yeah,
one of those
so
movies,
good,
right? Like one of my favorites of all time.
right.
and also Lost Boys, right? Like you
Yeah.
can't go wrong with either of those. But yes, I also grew up with the Goonies and all that stuff and the Terminator. It's funny that you mentioned you were talking about like the movies that you used to watch that was allowed, and the Terminator is pretty
It's brutal. It's
yeah,
brutal. You know, there was this weird thing about like sci-fi because it's a sci-fi horror action flick, right?
yeah.
And Aliens is the same thing. It's sci-fi horror action, and
Mhm.
the first Alien, I think of that as sci-fi horror. They played
Oh
on
yeah.
suspense so well, and the blood and gore they didn't pull back on that too much.
Mm-mm.
Um, they but yeah, the straight up slasher movies, like I wasn't allowed to watch Halloween. I wasn't allowed, which doesn't have any gore. It's got boobs. But
Sex
that's
is forbidden. How dare you?
yeah. Well, I grew up in Kersey, where okay, very kind of bottleneck conservatism, out there.
Cover up those ankles.
Yeah, exactly. Don't be careful, kids. Um, so yeah, so there. I mean, there was that, and in granted, like Friday the 13th, yeah, it was pretty gruesome, pretty bloody, a lot of sex in there, you know. But yeah, there definitely is a double standard with violence versus sex.
Right.
It's like,
I,
hey, one creates life and is endearing. One can be a little rapey too, but yeah, but violence. Well, rape is violence, and violence is nasty. All violence is nasty.
oh yeah.
Um, so it's like you prefer that I watch the thing where the world blows up, or there's a lot of gore, a lot of people die, but watching a pair of boobs, not so much.
Yeah, it's crazy. And that's a United States issue, right? Like that's not something in other countries as much. It's not a big,
Right.
it's usually the opposite, right?
Yeah,
It's the sex stuff,
if you
whatever.
go to Europe, France, they're a lot more, Italy, they're a little bit more open about sexuality. They've dealt with it for some reason. Well, not for some reason. I mean, we've just been kind of shoehorned into thinking that sex is demeaning and inappropriate and stuff. I mean, I think Canada, even has like protections for their sex workers. We don't have that here, you know, and so many people get hurt, doing that type of work, and some people are into that type of work by choice, and unfortunately, some others have been like human trafficked into it. But there needs to be those protections in place for those type of people. But we're so, you know, uh, just just you know tight knit on that stuff that we can't get past that to have meaningful dialogues on how to improve our lives, because we can't get past this one thing. Oh, the guy's got a boner, crap,
Yeah,
or bare
NC-17
boobs,
rating.
crap.
Can't yeah, it's
Yeah,
just all the weird, yeah, double standards for ratings. Like
yeah,
for me, one of the most gruesome things I've ever watched, like when I was a kid, was RoboCop. Like RoboCop
it
was absolutely like super gory, super violent, and all of
was.
that, and it was fine. Like it was like it was one of those movies. Like yeah, we can watch it. It's fine. You're 10. It's fine. Like
Yeah, yeah.
whatever.
Paul Verhoeven. I mean, he was known for these old, yeah, his earlier films like Flesh and Blood with Rucker Hauer. Holy crap, man! People are getting raped left and right. They're raping and pillaging and stuff. There's everything's all bloodied up, and he really didn't lighten up even when he was doing like bigger budgeted Hollywood films. Ooh, the sun's coming out. That's why now you can
Oh,
really
there you
see.
go. There you go. You got that hair light going.
Yeah, the hairline goes way back here and then continues onto my back. It's really nice. The women love it.
There you go. Yeah, that's all you need, right?
Yeah,
Um,
the carpet on your back.
carpet on your back, yeah. It's not
Gross.
fun in the summer, I'm sure.
No.
Yeah. So, just a couple other things. So this is one
Yeah.
question that I always ask like all of my guests. So if you could spend a day or a week in a world of one of your favorite films,
Hmm.
which would it be and why? And
Um,
you don't have to be a character in it. You
yeah,
can literally just be a spectator, just walking around watching it.
sure. I think I would, I would want to go back to my childhood, and it'd be the Monster Squad movie with, better dialogue, taking out those F words and stuff, and being a lot more inclusive.
Or maybe you're
Um,
the only one that can say the F word because you're an adult and you're just like, oh shit, what's going on here? But it's more like shock and like that you're scared. It's not like part of
yeah,
the story.
yeah. No, no derogatory terms against, gay or lesbian people. It's,
Right.
yeah, nothing like that. But I think that world is just, that's one of those movies that I wish would have done better, and got, some sequels so that we could really explore what else is out there and
Yeah.
stuff, and what better way to do it than through kids. Yeah, they had problem like marketing, that, and it's like, well, the protagonists are all kids. It's a kid movie. I would have thought they would have had a harder time with it, because it
Mhm.
was all through, the protagonists were all kids, the first one, chapter one. Um and that was rated R and dealing with some very adult subjects. I mean, the kids in, you know Monster Squad were also dealing with adult subjects. They just, the blood and the gore was just off camera, unless it was monster gore. Then you can
Yeah.
bleed green, right?
You give it green, it's all good.
Yeah, it's fine. It's no big deal. It's like one of those Transformer movies from Michael Bay. It's like,
Okay.
they just, like, you have all this like machine gore, and like, transmission fluid leaking everywhere and just like spewing, but you knew what it was. And so it's
Oh
like,
yeah.
oh man, that's,
Well, and that
really just PG-13.
I would say back then too. I mean, even in early into the '90s, like Home Alone, right?
Yeah,
Macaulay Culkin, that was a big deal. We
awesome
were like,
kids.
are they? Because they're like, this is the first time our main character is going to be a kid, and like, do we want to take that risk? And smashing success, right?
Yeah,
So, and obviously nowadays, like Stranger Things, right, has
right.
done that. They're picking up on it, and it's working for them. So,
Yeah, yeah. Kids are always, great to have as like that protagonist. It ropes in the younger crowd pretty easily. They can see, kids also want to see themselves represented on the big screen. Not just as adults. They, and and also, kids are those nagging, demographics. Mom, you got to take me to this. Mom, you got to take me to that. You buy me this, buy me that. I don't think it's changed since I was a kid. I
oh
did
no.
that to my mom. She reminds me every time, when are you going to pick up your toys? Remember when you wanted this as a kid? Why don't you want it now?
Right. It's like,
Yeah,
what's the newest thing that I can watch and that's why Star Wars, right? They're so huge is
right.
because they all of the toys
Yeah,
and
it's
yeah, it's just
smart.
you know,
Smart business.
Spaceballs, right? Like Spaceballs, the coloring book,
Yep,
Spaceballs,
Spaceballs the toys. Spaceballs the toaster oven. Spaceballs
right.
the napkins. You name it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yogurt was onto something, man.
Yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. So cool. We're actually moving really, really fast. This is crazy. So, I'd
Oh,
like to jump into the Colorado Festival of Horror,
yes,
the Slasher Hotel coming up, uh,
yes,
September 15th through 17th.
yes.
So I'm excited about it. What can you tell like people who don't know about it? Because you guys have done this. This is the third year, correct?
Third year, we're at a new location at the Denver Marriott, South Park Meadows, and much bigger hotel. In previous years, we were kind of scattered throughout the Embassy Suites over on I-70 in Havana, but now we're in a much more inclusive location where all the panel rooms are right next to the exhibitor hall. Main events is right next to, all of that. It's a, for us, our focus is on experiences, on creative activations. we have a number of wonderful guests. Right now, the ones we have announced, excuse me, Carolyn Williams from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, John Dugan, Ellen Denziger from the original Texas Chainsaw, Michelle Bauer from my favorite movie of hers, Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers. You can tell there's a theme. There's a kind of a theme. Let's see here. Who else we got today? We just announced James Stokes. He was here last year. He's been Jason in a number of fan films. I think he's also been on like Yellowstone and a couple shows that other people outside of horror would know him for.
That's
and
really
then
cool.
We've got my favorite. He's a personal hero of mine, Kurt Thatcher. He was in Marvel Studios' Werewolf by Night, which I absolutely love that. And he's also the director of Muppets Haunted Mansion and showrunner on Christine McConnell's, like Curious Creations on Netflix, which is
Nice.
a hybrid cooking and Halloween Muppet show.
I've seen that. It's great.
It's so fun. It's so cool. I wish they got picked up for a second season, but it's Netflix. They're infamous for canceling after the first season.
Yeah, that's
no wonder why we got a writer's strike, because nobody can keep a job at that place. But yeah, so he's done, everybody knows him as also the punk on the bus from Star Trek 4 Voyager Home or Voyage Home, right?
Yep.
Talking too much.
No, you're good.
And then let's see here.
He's great. I would just say, I just want to jump in real quick.
Yeah.
Like, I love how they brought him back. Like for
and Picard, right? Season 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I was like, oh my God.
Yep.
Because that kind of thing, I love when they do that. They go back to the past. They bring back random characters, from a movie, and then they just back into the universe, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the kind of stuff that I love. It's just like those Easter eggs that the big nerds know,
right.
that people are just like, oh my God, like I can't believe they did that. But I the thought that goes into something like that, you're just like, yes.
Yeah.
They know that we're nerds about that and that it works. So give us more of that. I wish they would do more of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But in horror or whatever, like, I don't know. Is there anybody you want to see?
Is there anybody I want to see?
I don't know. Maybe you'll have to think about that and get back to me. Yeah, like from like a older movie character that maybe they had their 5 minutes and then they were gone. And then you're like, oh man, I wish I could see them again. Like maybe they left an impression on you. They were just like, man, that was such a cool character. Like, I wish I would see them.
Dude,
there's too many.
Yeah, so my go-to is, okay, I got two go-tos that come to mind. Bishop from Aliens.
Yes.
Alien 3. I actually one of those people that do really like Alien 3. I think some of the stuff that they were trying to pull was really good. David Fincher did the best he could on his first feature film outing. And then look at where he is now. I mean, he's just a master storyteller. And, but I think, Bishop and Newt and all those guys were just handled really poorly. And I would love to see more Lance Hendrickson. I think he's one of those actors that is just absolutely tremendous. And, he's always a scene stealer. And it's really just a presence thing. Yeah. Near Dark is my favorite. I think it's my favorite American vampire film of all time. I think, my go-to is Let the Right One In.
Or no, not Bill
the
Paxton.
Scandinavian vampire movie. But let's see here. And then
that's cool.
Frankenstein from Monster Squad. Again, that where him and the little girl separate and he gets sucked into that vortex and fights Dracula. Even to this day, a little tear comes to my eye, and my girlfriend, she gets a kick out of watching me watch movies because I can get really emotionally invested. So like Paddington 2 is it's infamous for its emotionality, but the very last scene with Paddington, she'll pull out the stopwatch and just go 3, 2, 1, and then the waterworks just go, and I'm just like, whoa, every
So
time. I've seen that movie 10 times.
that's up for me. Same thing. Like
Oh
the
yeah,
beginning up.
that
Yeah. It's just
that opening montage, man, that gets me. The
yeah.
waterworks start. I'm such my mom's kid, you
You
know.
know what? But that's they're doing a good job when they have you emotionally invested that much for
Yeah, yeah,
over and over again.
yeah. I got pretty annoyed with the Toy Story movies because they did that every time, and I'm like, no. At this point, it's math. It's just math. They've got a formula. They know it. It's down pat, and they can do that. So like, I think it was Toy Story 3. I was just like bawling when they were all going into that inferno and stuff, and there was some really touching moments in part 4 too that got me going a couple times, and it's like god damn it. Damn it, Pixar. I have a cousin that's an animator at Pixar. I'm like, what is the
Oh,
secret? And he's like, I can't tell you the secret of a sauce.
nice.
So
Well, just to answer that quickly, but I think a lot of it is that they're able to storyboard like nobody else, right? They're able to
right.
see it and they can show it to somebody. And because it's not live actors, right? They can change it. Like they can do the things with it that you can't do with a regular, like just shooting a person in person. Makes,
Yeah.
they
A,
can test it a lot more.
a big part of their process is they do filmmaking by committee. Like everybody has a bit of a say. And then they're able, it's like, okay, this idea is a little half baked, and because so many of our employees and coworkers are saying like, this doesn't fit, this doesn't feel right. So that, I think that's why they've been so successful. Financially recently they haven't been, because COVID and steering stuff onto like online streaming. you know
Yeah.
I did like Lightyear. I thought that was enjoyable. I think their marketing sucked on that. Elemental, I thought their marketing sucked. I haven't seen it yet,
Mhm.
but like Turning Red, wow, what a great analogy on adolescence. um
I need to see that one. I haven't seen that one yet.
it's really good. That was one that really should have gone to the theater. So oh, that one really is fantastic. But anyway,
Yeah.
back to Colorado Festival of Horror. Let's see here. Who else we got coming?
Well,
Ah,
what are you go
another
ahead.
another hero of mine, Debbie Rochon from Tromeo and Juliet, Terra Firma. I mean, just we love trauma movies, and Lloyd Kaufman, and that stable. I mean, James Gunn came from that camp. Now he's heading up my favorite, comic book universe, DC Comics. I grew up on DC. I love Marvel, but you know,
You
like
you you're
Batman is
Batman.
just ingrained in me.
Right, same. Like and that's what it was for us. Like the first big ones, Michael Keaton, right? Like all of that.
Yeah. Christopher Reeves,
Yeah.
Superman. I rewatched that recently. Oh my God. My heart just melts watching that. Yeah, Tim Burton's Batman, right at the beginning, that music, Danny Elfman's music, just like,
Hmm.
yes, I'm ready for this ride. Take me on this. It's like,
They just
let's.
had that at the for with the Colorado Symphony Orchestra. They just did
Right,
that.
last weekend, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I missed it, but I think that would have been really cool to see because those shows are really awesome when the orchestra plays with the movies and stuff. It's really
yeah,
cool.
yeah. I was at Scream Screens, Joe Bob Briggs nights at 2 nights at the Sea Center. Elisa and I went over there and watched 2 nights, and first night was um, horror related train movies. So the Night Train of Terror, and then the Horror Express with Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee, and then um, the second night was Bubba Hotep, with Bruce Campbell and Ozzie Davis, from Don Coscarelli, and then the second feature was um, Rock and Roll High School with the Ramones, man.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm watching that movie, and I mean it's cheesy, but I've seen it on VHS, by myself, and it's good, But seeing it with an audience, man, you just like sitting there. It's like I am so thankful that the Ramones existed. Oh my God, thank goodness. And BJ Souls, I think she's tremendous in that. She was in Halloween as Laurie Strode's friend, and
Right.
one of the unfortunate victims in that movie. But so that's one I'm probably gonna push to see about having as a guest next year or something.
Are you guys gonna have, speaking of films, are you guys gonna screen some good stuff at the festival?
Yeah, we're gonna have a number of screenings. So in our main events area, we're gonna have a lot of Q&As and everything. We'll be we'll be having a Rocky Horror Picture Show, live performance too, as well as the film
Awesome.
going. Our screening room director, Art, he's the one that's curating that. We've got a number of slashers because the theme is slasher hotel. He's still putting together that list. We'll be adding some more films as people are reaching out, some local stuff too, and then we'll be announcing here in the next couple of weeks like a kickoff party screening event as well.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
so so we'll have some guests coming out early for that. And we've also got the amazing we love trauma, right? So we've got the amazing Monique Dupree, who has been in a number of trauma films. Was it Return of Class of Nukem High? She was in that, and then hashtag Shakespeare shitstorm too. She was Caliban in that, and like she had the most dramatic role and played it really straight, while everything else was like B movie and comical
Right.
and stuff and that. But she's also a wrestling personality. I think she's in House of Hardcore and Impact Wrestling. And she's also the little sister of Tony Todd.
That's awesome. I like that there's like a lot of diversity at this at the festival. It's a lot of different kinds of creative people, right? From actors to artists
Yeah,
to all of the things. And I think that's and it's all like obviously horror based, and that was one thing that I love is the community, right? The
yeah.
community of horror fans. Have you noticed a difference between the fans that have come in previous years or anywhere that you go? Do you see some of the same people?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of overlap. There's a lot of this, and there's a lot of the same people. So the one thing about horror fans and the horror community is they're so passionate and they're endearing. If you're creating something in that genre, they want to find out what it is. What are you doing? How can we support you? Um, and that's amazing. If you go to and I do, as everybody knows now, I do a lot of comics. I've done a lot of Comic Con events, and it's hot and cold, like
Yeah.
50%. It's like sometimes people are really into what you're doing, and the other half, not at all. That looks good. And they move on. It's not Superman. Okay. It's not Deadpool.
Right.
Hey, how can you beat the Merc with the mouth? Um, but uh, but yeah, it's yeah. What that's the nice thing about the consistency with the horror community is they're loving, they're endearing, they're passionate, they're curious. I think that's a really important trait: is always stay curious.
Yes.
What's this about? What's this thing? What's this horror novel? talk to us about it. Let's have a dialogue. Let's share on these ideas. And horror is like one of those amazing platforms that you can share all kinds of ideas, because horror is one of those things that reflects society, but it also reflects the ills of society, and you can have meaningful conversations on how to address those things through the art of horror. So that's absolutely tremendous. Yeah, Colorado, I think, has one of the most substantial horror communities out there. Sorry. And I think we're also have the number one haunt community in the U.S.
Really?
If I recall, in terms of population, we have the most haunted houses and home haunts out of anybody in the U.S. in relationship to population.
That's pretty interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that. I mean, I knew that there's a lot of haunted places here, but obviously, we're capitalizing on it apparently
Yeah.
better than others, or at least, yeah, that's what I want to get into too at some point. But are you guys gonna have any people on panels or anybody talking about paranormal stuff or
Yeah, we'll
hauntings?
have Brian Bonner there. He's our resident paranormal expert. Rocky Mountain Paranormal, and we're gonna have a ton of panels and workshops, just an array of topics. One of we're working with a group out of and hopefully we can book them, but we're working out of with a lovely group out of Fort Collins. They're veterinary students that they do stuff in relationship to discussing the physiology of monsters. So yeah, and cryptozoological creatures and entities, and it's wonderful. They'll take somebody from the audience will just like, hey, what about the creature from the Black Lagoon? Can that exist? And they talk about, well, if it exists, this is how it would exist. And
That's
there's
awesome.
just some animals that's like there's no freaking way. My go-to is like, okay, Godzilla, and it's like physics don't exist, can't do it. you know Even if the animal gets that big, it can't support itself. It'll just die. And to get that big, I mean, it's got to have sustenance. There's no food supply big enough for it.
Yeah,
It's
unless
like,
you're eating whales every day or something.
yeah, well, there goes all our whales. I mean, we're bad enough with whaling anyway. So
Right.
we're not too
That's
good with
that's really cool about them. Yeah, that would be awesome because that would be something I'd be really interested in too.
yeah. And we all got a number of groups that are going to be doing different games and trivias and stuff. And we do have some RPGs that we're looking at for booking, and then obviously a lot of different topics for conversation, for panel conversations. We don't want to be just and we do have for those that are there for the celebrity experience too. We've got that as well, but
Yeah.
we wanted people to get more involved, to get up out of your seat and participate and do group activities and stuff like that. So yeah, we also have a platform. Well, we've got our competitions too. We're known for our horror cosplay competition, Gore Galore, which will be on Saturday. So make sure to show up and sign up for that. We've got the tattoo competition that'll be on Sunday. We're known for that with Chris.
Are they doing live tattoos, or is it live tattoos, or you
No,
come show them your tattoo?
it's a competition, so you're going to show off your body art and stuff, and then but whoever shows up, make sure your artist too, because they need to be they need to be credited for the glorious work that you wear on your body. So that's headed up by Chris Chateau from Phantom 8 Tattooing, and Jim Norris from Mutiny Cafe. So yeah, we've got a lot of wonderful things there too. We're trying to get to some drag horror children book hour as well.
That's awesome. That sounds so fun.
Yeah, yeah. I think that I think that's definitely a community that really needs to be celebrated. Especially during these times. You know, um, and yeah, God, I mean, there's a lot.
There's so many things. I'm so excited just hearing you talk about it, like, because that's the thing that sometimes with cons that there's just not enough other things like
Right,
interaction type stuff.
right.
Like trivia. I love trivia. Any kind of like horror trivia, all that. It's fun. So like doing all of the things you just mentioned, where it's more interactive and it's because I mean obviously meeting the celebrities is fun and you have your questions and it's that's amazing. But like for the horror fans out there, like you want more. And also it's a good way to interact with each other to get to know
Yeah,
some new people.
yeah. No, that's a good point. It's a great safe space to really connect with your fellow compatriots. You know, and really kind of make new friends over this love of this genre. And my hope is, and we do have a platform for this, is you know um, you know people coming up pitching their projects, but hopefully like people will connect and create new art, that they can share with the world. And we would love the idea of like, hey, you guys met here at our event, and I think that's an amazing thing to feel. That warms my heart. That gives me my Paddington 2 moment.
Yeah, if you are helping people create to come together and collaborate and who knows what comes from it, but
Right.
there's so many. I think there's so many, like for me too, anytime I go to these things is there's so much creativity that comes from it that you're just
Yeah.
like lightning bolt in your head. And then you meet these people that have that same idea or that same feeling, and they want to
Right.
help, and then you get the ball rolling, everybody's excited, and then no matter what medium it is, right, whether it be film, tattoos, like games,
Yeah.
whatever, like, and that's
Novels,
what's
comic books. I mean, we'll have those. We haven't announced our novel and comic book guests, but those will be coming too. But I mean, there's also, especially people like kind of coming through the pandemic too. There's also a mental component to it. A mental awareness, mental health component. Just being able to like meet and interact with people really does help with that, because so many people have been isolated and kind of developed some level of PTSD or some anxiety issues. I know I did. I mean, look at how delightfully nervous and spastic I am, chatting with you.
no,
Because
you're great.
I appreciate it, because usually I'm on your end, where I'm asking the questions and I let somebody else do all the talking.
No, no, this is great. But you're right. I mean, coming out of the pandemic, especially I think for like teenagers and stuff, I feel bad,
Yeah.
like the worst for them, just because, they weren't able to socialize, they weren't able to be in school together. They're growing up without all of these things that they would normally have.
Right.
And so their social skills are gonna be hit pretty hard from that. And,
Yeah.
society might change and this, hopeful things like this help them because I mean, I don't know if this is true, but I would say a lot of fans of horror, a lot of them are introverted and
Mhm.
this kind of stuff gets them excited, gets them out of, their comfort zone because they want to be here. They want to do these things. They want to take part in it. And I think that's kind of a
Yeah.
good thing. So,
Yeah, yeah, most definitely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. For us introverts, it's like pandemic, not a not a big deal in the sense of like, man, I got a lot of projects done. But as on the social aspects, I noticed coming out of it, I was severely lacking. I was going to events. It's incredible. I went back to like my shy roots when I was in middle school. It was weird. I wouldn't, I go out to a screening or meet up with friends, and I wouldn't say a word. That's such a strange feeling, and I don't want anybody else to have to you know feel that way. It's icky,
right.
and granted, there's worse things that came out of stuff like that, but
Yeah.
yeah. So there's definitely a mental illness aspect, and or a mental capacity that can be helped by coming out to events like this and talking about horror. I mean, it in itself, I think, is a nice remedy, or at
Yeah.
least a way to cope. Um,
Absolutely. I told my friend today that Arachnophobia came out. I think it was like 35 years ago today,
mhm.
something like that. But I was like, she's like, no, she's like, I'll watch it with you, but you have to pay for my therapy later. And I was like, horror is a form of therapy.
It
And
is.
she's like, yeah, I guess. I'm like, yeah, well,
Yeah, yeah. A lot of times it forces you to deal with your anxieties, and then you go back and watch something similar, like if it's a movie, which is a really immediate form of that genre communication. You know, you go, you watch it, you live through it, you go back, watch it again. The anxiety is a little less and a little less and a little less. Then you realize, oh yeah, I can start dealing with some tough subjects and tough ideas or tough scenarios maybe. um that's, I think, that can be a wonderful thing. I know a few people that their anxiety is just off the chain,
yeah,
and I wish they would. Um I mean, they have to be heavily medicated, but they just the idea of facing anything that they deem
foreign or unfamiliar.
aggressive or dangerous. um they couldn't even imagine it. I wish it's just, yeah, just dip your toe in there just a little bit, but
Yeah.
some folks just aren't wired to do that, but it doesn't mean we should give up on
No, absolutely not.
them.
And like I said, like with your with the festival coming up, the Colorado Festival of Horror, like you guys, just like all the horror community that I've met here so far in Colorado, they're just so willing to talk. They're so willing to share stories. They're so willing to like they're excited to tell you, what films, what art, what brought them here, right?
Right,
We're all here together, like what is your angle on it, what do you love about it, and maybe you'll figure out something new that you're like, man, like I'm just into movies, but like I saw this sculpture that this dude made, like i
hmm
want to i want to know more about that.
yeah,
Because so there's just so many like things that can spark your imagination that maybe you hadn't thought about until you were in that kind of atmosphere outside of
right.
actually films.
Right. Yeah, the Colorado Festival of Horror is just, a fantastic, all-inclusive, umbrella for, anything you love about horror. And you want to come hang out, meet your heroes, make new friends, and then hopefully go out and create your own art. And then hopefully, you'll come back the next year, you'll be one of our vendors or one of our guests, or, and then, we can celebrate your work too. um, yeah, I think that's the main thing. It's a big celebration. It's a delightful party, and um, and it's something to be able to inject some meaning into that human condition,
Yeah,
that we tend to have to deal with every day. But it makes it all worth it, all the more. So for everybody out there, yeah, it's September 15th through the 17th. You can get your tickets at cofestivalofhorror.com, and make sure to follow us on Facebook. We're on Instagram and Twitter. Though I don't know how relevant Twitter is anymore, but
well, and obviously you guys are always releasing new updates for different things.
yeah.
I noticed that just I think today about the tattoos, right?
Yeah, yeah. We
Yeah,
were just yeah. We just rolled out the event page for the tattoos, and for the tattoo competition with Chris and Jim, and that's going to be awesome. Last year we had the Enigma as one of our judges. Not sure if we're going to be able to get him this year. We'll see. Um, he's a buddy of mine. I do his comics too, so.
I
Um,
haven't had the pleasure of meeting him. I'm excited to though. He seems like a cool guy.
oh, he's a super cool guy. He's like one of the, Elise, my girlfriend, always, thinks of him as like, oh, so you're my invisible friend that is made manifest, right? Um, yeah, he's definitely like that. He's very ethereal in that sense, but a sweetheart, and a tremendous creative soul. So it's really nice to have them around. But yeah, yeah, it's absolutely wonderful. So definitely, come out to the festival. We'll be making more announcements, so watch Facebook, for everybody out there. And then feel free to hit us up too if you have any questions. My personal email is vanishteer@gmail.com. So, feel free
Awesome.
to hit me up and all that.
Well,
Yeah.
great. That's awesome. I really like that you came on. I'm happy that you were able to join us and talk all things, horror and creative and all of that. Like it's been fun. Like it actually flew by. Like I'm looking at my clock. I'm like, oh no, we're already like an hour and 15 in. But I think it was all great. Like this
I,
was really good.
I think we're just scratching the surface there, BJ.
Yes, there's a lot to know from you, and then obviously at some point I'll get you into some of the stuff I get into, and
Cool.
and maybe we'll collaborate on something. I do need more artists in my life, so
Yeah, well, we're happy to enrich lives. That's what we're here for.